Hey everybody, it's Master Galengeist here, bringing you my review for Fantastic Four issue 48. Again, great cover, like showcasing of Avalette and Sue pretty much fighting over the Baxter building like this. But I thought this was a fantastic issue because it just really got the Fantastic Four, and Sue going through and having to deal with the things that Avalette would have throw at her throughout this issue, and then coming to the end point and tying it up really nicely with everything being done in the Baxter building and Reed coming to his conclusion about the whole celestial judgment. It just worked very well for me, and I'd actually like to see this creative team do like a full run on the Fantastic Four at some point, because this just was a very enjoyable read. So we get back, we see Reed pretty much reiterating that he's running out of time. We see Sue is pretty much dealing with Avalette monologuing more of like how she can't escape, that her father had instructed her in the art of the hostile takeover, and that she's pretty much got this, like conquest is in her blood. But we see that Sue's getting through a lot of different kind of places, protecting people from the rest of the invaders, and just seeing that Avalette's still trying to get into the think tank to get into Reed's head. Let's see here. And she's pretty much being like, I'm going to get all of his information. I'm going to get greater glory for the Midas Foundation. And Reed is always talking about how Sue becomes, even though Sue's the main focus and Reed does a lot of talking about Sue, that is kind of important because they're husband and wife. But he brings up how Sue has kind of changed his thinking as a scientist and as a person. And he's like, yet no matter how formidable the challenge, I always find a way to come up with a solution, and the reason why is her. And it's funny because Avalette's like, nobody's coming to rescue you, and she's like, you're gonna need saving there. And that's just a really cool way to be like, hey, here's what the issue's called. It's like, yes, and it just works. Alright, here. And then we kind of see that it goes back and forth between Sue dealing with a new kind of wrench thrown into the mix by Avalette, while Reed starts kind of comparing her to Gravity, which at first you would think, hey, that sounds kind of weird to compare your wife to Gravity, hurtling objects at you. But no, it works because of the way he describes it, knowing that there's an unseen energy holding your world together, invisible but inevitable, and one that I was instantly powerless to resist. It's damn, that's a good way to explain that. And of course, she's trying to get Avalette to be like, listen, Dr. Midas is long dead, just use your resources to help Reed. And she's like, why the hell will Reed be able to come up with something on this celestial level in time? And she's like, well, because I believe in him, he believes in me. That's love. She, of course, brings up that her kind of whole experience with love leads more to disappointment. And Sue, of course, is like, hey, I kind of know when there's an invisible person kind of mucking around behind me, so just let him come out. And she's like, well, there might not be a perfect man, but she pretty much made one named Spaceboy. And this dude looks creepy, man. That's just a really effective way to introduce a character, and it's just oh god, alright, let's see how this kind of dude works. So we see then that Johnny is outside seeing everybody kind of dealing with the whole force field that's around the Baxter building, and of course the whole celestial thing going on. Johnny's like, at least it's me and you, Pizza. And so I called him the human candle. It's like, Torch, I'm kind of having a moment here, buddy. And this dude is pretty much late for his shift and wants to know how to kind of fix what's going on. And he's like, listen, I don't know, but there's a giant cosmic ray force field over there. And then we of course see it's you don't want to hit that, as it's showcasing him doing that in the last issue. And then a really kind of cool part is that Reed starts compounding upon the Human Torch and being Johnny often underestimates himself, growing up kind of in Sue's shadow as well, and that's a kind of important thing because Johnny's not stupid. He may do stupid things, and that usually is dependent upon what the writing team is doing at the time, like the severity of the stupidity. But yet he's like, okay, let's kind of see him kind of go through this. He's like, listen, he's kind of feeling down because he can't help his family at the moment because of everything going on. So we see that the mechanic dude is like, listen, hey, this is a Corvette. I could give it a tune-up with Leo's Automotive Guarantee. But then he starts explaining that it runs off like universal energy that can like come through other different kind of things. Like, let me see. You could power a car, a computer, your house. And then, of course, he gets that like kind of inspiration thing or a giant freaking force field. And he just takes that single spark. He asks to use the dude's toolbox, but he's like, okay, that depends. Is that pie from Grimaldi's? And I'm like, yeah, okay. Pizza is payment. Universal kind of thing. We shift over to Ben, and he is not in a good position because he is essentially in an Atlas kind of protocol where the building is ready to kind of like take his... like, he's holding everything on his shoulders at the moment. Hold on, let me shift. Weird. Okay. So, his main thing is that he's like praying to God to pretty much see his family again. He's like, I'll be whoever you need me to be. Just give me the strength to see my family again. As Reed's like, this, he wouldn't put his safety in the hands of anybody other than like Ben Grimm, and it's not because of his indomitable will or his limitless strength. It's because when it comes to the people he loves, he'd carry the weight of the world on his shoulders to protect them. And it's like, yeah, that's the strength of Ben Grimm, of the Thing. Yeah, he might go into clobbering time, but like, that strength helps him get through all these kind of various scenarios. And he keeps pushing ahead, Reed, to determine the Celestials' endgame, and Sue's trying to figure out this Space Boy dude as he starts doing kind of like, we see him kind of talking, him drawing out his S's and stuff, and that's kind of a funny little thing. And he's like, Sue's like, alright, you messing with me, screw this, and I'm happy to oblige with the fight. And the thing is, Avalette can't do the voice override, and she's like, dang it, I need Sue alive. And Sue's like, oh, but that, I kind of got your boy in a like invisible ball over here. But then he's like, how about a touch of acid, which kind of works because he can like manipulate space and stuff like that. Because at first I was thinking, how the hell can he do that? Because she is pretty much manipulating an energy field. But yet, if she manipulates the energy field to essentially turn into like a tangible kind of matter, it does make sense. At first you're like, what? But then you're like, oh, okay. And then it starts like breaking through with it. And she's like, okay, that's nasty. Let's see. And as this is going on, Reed is pretty much asking why the Celestials would do this and risk doing away with such costly research with what they've been doing with the human race and, well, life in general to a degree, but at this point with like the human race and all that. Let's see. Abalette's pretty much being like, hey, look at all this shit. I could use this shit. And, of course, Stu's like, I don't want to hurt you, Space Boy, but we both know that Abalette won't tolerate you killing me. And then he's like, who said I'd kill you? And Reed then starts comparing us to like mice trapped in a maze, and the Celestials prodding us to see which direction we'll go. It's like, yeah, that definitely makes sense from what we've been seeing and what we've always seen with Celestials. So we see that Space Boy pretty much trapped her in a pocket battlefield, and Sue had used like a chair to kind of like mess with Abalette, Die Hard like. And let's see. Chaotic event. Let's see. She's pretty much like, okay, a synthetic galaxy would be the perfect death trap. Unfortunately for you, Space Boy, you messed with the wrong soccer mom. And of course, Space Boy is like, hey, I've secured the target. But then the like pocket thing starts glowing, and we see one of the kind of robo things. She's like, what the hell? What does it say? A mind is a terrible thing to waste. As Sue pretty much used the head to like blast through the pocket dimension, pretty much superheating it beyond the Caldwell expansion point to pretty much break out of it. That's a hard fucking thing to do. And that was just kind of cool to see that. And Abelette's like, you can't even do this. And Reed, of course, brings up, like, every so often the mice find a way to escape their cages. Let's see here. So Abelet is then like, alright, screw this noise. Pretty much gets to the, like, let's see here. The stockbrokers, and pretty much holds them hostage to get Sue to cooperate with her. And of course, she's like pretty much expounding upon, I didn't get burned with a Badoon acid just to be showed up by some aging homemaker. Abelette's not happy. And you definitely get this. And Sue, of course, acquiesces. She surrenders herself. We see Ben, of course, is in a more precarious position. But then Eduardo helps and says that Ben says that whatever they're paying him, it needs to be doubled. But his faith came through. And Abelette's like, alright, the hostages are safe for now, watched over by my genetically enhanced mercenaries. Sue still tries to reason with her, saying you don't have to do this. Midas was a megalomaniac and a sadist. He tortured you for years. Let's see. And Abelette still thinks that her father's great, and she's like, the password, or I paint the Baxter building with their blood. And it's really kind of funny. Because Reed's talking about, like, he thought he understood the mechanisms of the universe, but you cannot truly perceive the world without listening to your heart, and that's the variable that can change the entire equation, as Sue decides to give a voice authorization of Imperious Rex, which then unlocks that superhuman intruder protocol activated, which I find hilarious because of the whole kind of relationship dynamic between Reed, Sue, and Namor, and I'm just like, yeah, because it's almost kind of funny that, like, if Namor was actually kind of helping out and he wasn't careful and Reed and Sue didn't, like, put on lockdowns, he could accidentally activate this protocol. And it's just kind of funny that that's the whole thing that sets off a thing, because anybody else would be like, what the fuck? Why would you do that? And be like, because nobody would fucking think that that would be used to activate this kind of protocol to, like, get the Herbies to frickin' go nutso. Reed, of course, is then expounding more upon, like, it was Sue who taught him to believe in things bigger than himself, through compassion, through selflessness, through hope. As the Herbies are then helping to secure the hostages, but Abelet is firing her gun, which can, like, starts to turn her into gold and shift, like, changing Sue, since they were pretty much courtesy of cosmic ray bullets dipped in my father's blood. Yes, she has issues. Like, granted, I understand using any weapon available to you, but you gotta be on another kind of level to be like, I'm gonna dip these bullets in my father's blood and turn my enemies to gold. Yes, people harmed you. What the fuck? And she's pretty much gloating, saying you'll live forever as a monument to the Midas Foundation's triumphs. It's like, alright. And then, let's see here. Reed talking about unseen forces, and in those same qualities that have infused our family with a bond deeper than even cosmic radiation. As we see that Johnny and Leo worked on his car, it's like, listen, this is either going to work, or the car's going to explode, or I'm going to hit this force field at like 200 miles an hour. It's like, it's got Leo's automotive guarantee. And I love this, that they, like, made it, like, a kind of commercial kind of thing. Like, that's commitment. And that just really works. He's like, yeah, I'm filming with hope. Here it goes. As he pretty much slams through, he's like, yeah, I got pizza. It's great because it just lends into the whole action movie feel of what's going on. As then we get pretty much Ben popping up as well, getting ready to get into clobbering time. And Abelette's pretty much ready to kind of go for that. Reed talking about how he's always believed in a higher power than that, but the Celestial already knows all that. It can read our minds, detect our slightest frailties, and unearth our deepest truths. As Sue pretty much explains that they have scanned her blood and found that there's no DNA match because of how cosmically affected Midas was. And she's thinking that the Celestial could have stopped, like she's thinking of all the ramifications of this, as Reed's like, the Celestial could have stopped me at any time. What if the answer is in front of me all along? It's like I said, whenever I face an insurmountable problem, I think of Sue, and the rest inevitably falls into place. And we see that, like, this pretty much breaks Abelet, as she just wanted Midas to see her and get that approval, and she doesn't know who she is. That fractures her sense of her sense of self. And that's like, god dang, that's a big thing to go through. As then Sue tries to kind of comfort her, saying that nobody deserves to feel invisible. And I do like, even though this was a kind of screwed up scenario, that they don't punch or solve this through violence. They do stop her when she's employing violence, but they give her a truth that she needs to kind of like deal with. And we see that Reed has come to the understanding of what he needs to do, comes out of his think tank, and she's like, alright, did you figure it out? And he's like, yep, the answer was always you. As they're trying to ask him what the whole thing was with the Celestial, and he's like, that's just it. The Celestial knew I would try to solve its judgment, and that became its challenge for me, to choose between outthinking the unthinkable or being there for the people who need me the most. And this, I really like this. This really shows an understanding of the Fantastic Four and Reed Richards of, when it comes down to it, what is the best kind of time to choose wisely? Like, and if this is my final night on Earth, then I know who best to spend it with, as he wants to spend it with his family. And the Celestial understands that and passes judgment that they pass with the thumbs up. Because no matter what the universe throws at us, as long as we're together, our family will always find a solution. And I don't care if that's like cliched or tropey or whatnot. It just hits and feels right for this. It really hits at the core of the Fantastic Four. And especially like Reed, Sue, Johnny, and Ben together and how they handled things. And this issue exemplified that. Even though Sue was doing stuff on her own, and even though Reed was doing stuff on his own, and the rest of them had to figure out how to get into the building or get out of a sticky situation, at the end, we got them all together being the Fantastic Four and being that family, because family is a core thing for that. And this issue gets this. And this story was just really good. Like, if I needed to show somebody, like, hey, I want to see if I like the Fantastic Four, I would actually just show them these two and be like, I know it's kind of weird, and I know you've just got to know a little bit about the tie-in of, like, Judgment Day, but I'd be like, hey, this just was really good and really fun, and I think really got the characters and the situations well. I was like, yeah, this is why I read comics. So, yeah, I can't wait to see what happens after this, because we're going to be getting our new creative team, see how that kind of, like, jives and how that's going to be setting us off. We are going to be getting close to issue 700, because this is legacy number 693, so we'll see big things coming in for the Fantastic Four in the future, and I can't wait to kind of see where that kind of goes. So, those are my opinions on the issue. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.